Welcome to the No More Drafts podcast. I'm Louise Corinwe, and this is the podcast for people who are tired of slow progress, tired of overthinking things and waiting to feel ready before taking action. Each week, we unpack the fears, the patterns, and stories that keep you stuck in ways you may not even realize, so that you can take your next step forward, your next courageous action, and move towards doing your life's work and building a life that's bigger than fear. Together, we move you out of perpetual draft mode and into done mode. So, what are we talking about today? Welcome. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. Today, we're talking about capability. And capability is not always directly correlated with progress and goal achievement. In fact, capability can actually work against you. It can become a disadvantage if it's not channeled properly. It's almost like sometimes the more you know, the worse it is for you. And that concept of ignorance being bliss to an extent. And the thing is, capable people tend to try to know more, learn more, get more facts, get more information before they move forward. And that can ultimately become a hindrance because sometimes capability becomes the perfect hiding place for fear. So this might be a bitter pill to swallow, especially if you grew up in a household where education and skill development and being capable was everything. And it was positioned as the most important thing. And you almost had to earn your success through capability. Now, I'm not saying that capability is not a factor at all in making progress in your dreams and your goals and in success. It absolutely is. But on the other hand, there is another side to it. The most successful and the most fulfilled people are not necessarily the ones with the highest IQ. They're the ones who move forward. They're the ones who execute and they're the ones who make progress. But I talk a lot about perfectionism, and I talk about perfectionism because it can be a huge stumbling block, actually, a huge barrier to attainment, to progress, to moving forward. And like I've shared in the trailer for this podcast and also in my videos on my other YouTube channel, Louise Corinwe, I have had my own journey with perfectionism. I've coached many people around perfectionism and I've seen it in my corporate roles as well. And it can be so misunderstood and mislabeled. But perfectionists are essentially often very capable people who care about doing things well, who care about earning their stripes, if you like, and making sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. But today I want you to really reflect on that and understand how much it's actually preventing you from making progress. And ultimately, what is the thing that matters the most? Is it spending years earning your stripes? Is it spending years getting everything in perfect order and being the most capable, only to not really get to a point where you share what you have with the world, with others, and actually make progress in your goals and your dreams? Which one is more important? Is it that, or is it actually bringing your capability to life? And that's what this is really about at the end of the day. When we say making progress, getting things done, it's about bringing your capabilities to life, taking them from your own head or your own hands, your heart, wherever they reside, and bringing them into the world. Now, that sounds easier said than done because it is a scary thing to do. I know that very well. It's scary to just step out and start doing things, start taking action consistently as well, might I add, even when you're not sure if you've demonstrated enough capability or ability. But if you can learn to understand and accept that the two are just different, they are detached. What you do and the actions you take don't need to depend on your capabilities and your abilities. The two are different. And then in addition, that you grow in capability and ability as you act, as you move, as you make progress, as you do. But as I said, capable people instead tend to overthink things and they want everything to be just right. You may also want all the information as well. And it can also lead you to keep making revisions, keep making plans. And that overthinking can mean that even if sometimes you do step forward and you do take an action and you begin to make progress, it can be inconsistent. because the fear gremlin might come back again, or oh, I need to prove that I've earned that can come back again, that voice. Another thing that you can be susceptible to when you're capable is talking about it a lot. And that's part of the overthinking, because you might want to talk through the idea with people, or you feel you've got to discuss it because you've got to have it perfectly clear and everything's got to be right. And maybe you even are seeking people's permission or feedback or opinions without even realizing it. But I've seen this with the people I coach, and I've seen it in myself as well, that all of that can be a guise. All of that can be a cover for wanting to consider all the bases, all the possibilities, all the imagined scenarios for whatever it is you're trying to push forward, all the things that could go wrong, all the things that could go right. Because you are capable, you want to think about this from every single angle and consider all the possibilities. But what about the skill and capability that you will develop by dealing with scenarios and issues that come up that you've not foreseen, that you never knew would happen? The agility, the flexibility, and the adaptability that will be required for such situations cannot be underestimated. And in today's world, we're going to need that cognitive flexibility, adaptability, and agility, lots of itties. We're going to need a lot of that. Things are constantly changing. And as someone who's capable, you can plan for every possible scenario, every situation. But the reality is, the world we're in today, you will always get curveballs thrown at you. You will not be able to foresee everything. So you might as well just start. And at least if you start now, you'll have had some skin in the game. You'll have learned something for when that curveball does come. You'll have some experience by that point, as opposed to if you wait to have everything certain, everything sure, everything clear. In one of my YouTube videos on my long form channel, Louise Corinwe, I talk about a situation that happened at work in my early corporate career where things sort of shifted for me. And I used to honestly kill myself to produce things that were at the quality and the standard that I thought they had to be. And no one would care. No one would really care. I mean, some people would, but for the most part, they didn't care as much as I thought they would. And it wasn't just about other people's reactions. I had a standard that I felt I always had to meet. I won't go into all of that fully. I'll talk about that more on a future episode, this idea of standards and the pressure to live up to standards that aren't just from the external world, but that are also often from ourselves internally and where they come from. But I also do talk about that on my YouTube channel as well. But the moment that happened was when I was working with a colleague in my early career, and I saw that they were not too fast. They were basically the opposite of me. And they were not as technically uh, competent. The quality of their work was not what I thought the expectation would be, but they got things done at a brilliant pace and consistently. And essentially, they built their capability and abilities through doing, through just getting things done. And there are skills, I mentioned this previously, but there are skills that are waiting for you. They're literally waiting for you, but they can only be obtained through you doing, through you executing. Sometimes they're the technical skills, sometimes they're the interpersonal skills, but they are there waiting for you. And you just have to start moving. You just have to start going. But again, as capable people, you want to feel capable. You want to feel you've earned your stripes before you go, and you overthink things and everything has to be just so. But, part of what we're doing on this podcast is rethinking all of that and challenging that and becoming people who execute consistently, even in the midst of uncertainty, even in the midst of not having all the information, and even in the midst of fear. You see, with my colleague and I, my focus and my emphasis was on, is this piece of work good enough in a way that I will still feel like I'm good enough to be here and worthy of being in this room? And that made me blind to so many things, including the fact that I was already, good enough and worthy of being in that room. But you see, when you're always in a state of proving, and proving can be subconscious. Again, this is not a conscious state. You're not waking up saying, "Oh, I'd have to prove myself." It's very, very subconscious. When you're in that constant state of proving, it blinds you to almost everything. It blinds you to what you've already achieved. It blinds you to what is still left to achieve. It blinds you of things that are outside of achievement that are still important and still valuable and will add to your life. But her focus was just on, is this done? There was none of this desire to prove. And, the danger of producing high quality work, or the downside is people almost build up a tolerance to it. They start to expect it. And so your amazing quality that you deliver every time starts to become the norm and the standard for you. And again, people start to care less and less. For my colleague, people would be absolutely wowed by some of her quality because she wasn't always going for gold. She established a baseline of, say, bronze, which was relatively easy for her to deliver and quick. And that meant silver was met with great appreciation and astonishment by people, which still wasn't too much for her to deliver. But you see, I was going for gold all the time. And after a while, everyone just gets used to that gold. And that gold can cost a lot, that overthinking, that effort. And so now you've got to do more than that to maintain people's appreciation or for people to still see the value in what you're doing. Does that mean we should never try to execute gold, or we should never try to do things brilliantly? Absolutely not. The key shift is in what's motivating that drive for excellence, that striving for excellence, and to also see the bigger picture as well beyond that. But we'll cover that in a future episode. And again, if there's anything you want me to cover or that you'd love to explore, please do just email nomoredrafts@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, like I was saying, my slower progress wasn't just about standards or detail. It was about something much deeper than that. And because my colleague was not tied to those things as much, they were able to be freer and learn and grow in a much broader and holistic way than my narrow way, which was I can only grow and develop and become capable through suffering and through hard work and through things being excellent. And like I said, that is just a very narrow way to see it. And I encourage you to consider, what is your work about? Is it about making progress? Is it about sharing with others and adding value to others? I wasn't just trying to finish the work. I was trying to feel safe through it at the end of the day. And again, so much of this is subconscious and taught, right? Society teaches us this. Society teaches us that you are what you do, that your safety is found in your achievement. And there's so many other layers to it as well, including childhood experiences, school experiences, socioeconomic factors, racial factors. There's so many layers that can influence one's experience of this perfectionism, of having to prove your worth through your achievement, or of your worth being proven through achievement. So there's a couple of questions I want to ask you to reflect on and to think about while we're here. And that's, what are you focusing on? What is your emphasis? I'm absolutely sure that there are elements of you want to add value to others. In fact, I think that's a lot of what drives capable people, perfectionists, those who overthink, the procrastinators. I'm sure that absolutely is in there without a shadow of a doubt. But pay more attention, or pay closer attention to what you're focusing on as you embark on a new goal for your life's work, or for a dream you have, or something you want to execute. What are you really focusing on? Are you focusing on getting it done and making progress and sharing it with the world? Or are you focusing on what I used to focus on, which is this good enough so that I'll feel good enough and I'll feel that I've earned the right to have reached my dream or my goal, or to have acquired XYZ? Because in the words of Robin Sharma, what you focus on in your life is what grows. What you think about expands, and what you dwell on determines your destiny. So now, as you're embarking on a new goal, a dream, a career pivot or transition, perhaps you completely want to reinvent your life, or you're just starting a side hustle, whatever it is, as you're embarking on this, as you're planning for it, or taking steps forward in it, or just thinking about it, what are you focusing on? And is what you're focusing on helping or hindering your progress? That's the first question I just want you to think about. I referenced this earlier, but talking too much about your idea instead of doing it is also another reason capable people can stay stuck. You talk about it because you want everything to be clear, you want it to make sense. And talking about it is not bad at all. It's good because to a degree you do need clarity, but you know when it's gone too far and it's time to stop talking and start acting, or at least do both in tandem. Because ultimately, conversation helps you see it, especially if you, like I said, you're a visionary, you're an ideas person. But action is what helps you become it. Action is what helps you live it. And in a recent video I did, I speak about how the mode we operate in to come up with ideas and to be vision oriented and to be inspired is different to the mode we need to operate in to execute, to take action, to move things forward in a tangible way. So something I used to do is every time I would talk about my idea, my dream, or my goal, I would have to pair it with a tangible action that would get me closer to it. That became a rule I had. If I talk about it, I have to take one step or action towards it because everyone procrastinates in different ways. Some people talk too much, some people plan too much, some people think too much, or they do all of those, like myself. And so if you are someone who tends to just talk about it a lot, try just pairing the talk with one simple action. And it does not need to be complex. It does not need to take long. It could be an action that only takes 5 minutes, but at least it keeps you accountable. It keeps you in a state of moving forward, making progress, and not just talking about it. So this is my last question to you to think about. What are some of the hidden and subconscious rules you have about executing your dreams, your goals, your ambitions? And I speak to people nearly every day who have dreams and goals that they desire to achieve. And you would never expect for some of them to have those goals and those dreams. And not to be morbid, but this is one of the biggest deathbed regrets. This ties to a lot of them. Not letting yourself be happy, overworking, and living for others instead of living in alignment with who you know you really are, which suggests that a lot of people have desires, they have these dreams, they have these goals, they have these unique contributions they want to make to the world. But these hidden rules tend to hold us back in ways we don't even realize. And we also tend to cling to them because we don't realize they're there. They just become a way of being. And this idea that you have to deliver perfect work or perfect outcomes before you can start is one that is very common that I see in the high achievers and the capable people that I coach and that I work with. And it is yet one of the biggest blockers to progress, which is why I'm committed to helping people break that down, understand where it comes from, and tear up that rule and work and live from a different rule that facilitates and fosters their progress, their visions, their dreams, so that they can make their unique contributions to the world. And of course, this doesn't happen overnight. You know, it took me one mindset shift at a time, one different action at a time, one courageous step at a time to start breaking some of those perfectionistic rules I used to live by that created overwhelm and procrastination in my life. So this isn't meant to happen overnight, but every day is still important. Every day you make a different decision is key. And that is ultimately the sign that you are overcoming the negative side of perfectionism, of procrastination. It is that you can look back, say a year or 2 years, and think, gosh, the old me would never have allowed me to do that. You know, 5, 10 years ago, I would never have done XYZ. That is a good sign that those old rules are being challenged and confronted. And on this podcast, we will be going on some courageous steps together. We'll be taking some serious acts of courage together to start breaking those old rules, to start moving differently and operating from the beliefs and the mindsets and attitudes that help you make real progress, that gets you out of that draft mode and into done mode. So let's make this year the year you look back and say, oh my gosh, did I really do that? My old self would never have allowed that, which is my final challenge to you. Identify a rule that you never realized you lived by when it comes to making progress in your goals. It could be, I have to have the plan in place. I have to have have someone say that I'm allowed to do it. I have to know all these details here before I can move forward. I have to deserve it. Whatever it is, identify a rule that you have subconsciously been living by when it comes to going for your goals, your dreams, and executing on your ideas. And my challenge to you is to break it. Do one thing that is the opposite of that rule and break that rule. So those are two questions that we're reflecting on today in this podcast episode. Question one really looks at the surface of things. And question two is there to expose what's underneath the surface and what's happening there, both of which are really important. I would love to know any reflections that have come from these questions or from this podcast. Please feel free to email me at nomoredrafts@gmail.com. Even if it's not reflections on those questions, and obviously I would love for you to do the rule book challenge, but even if you don't do that, it could just be something that popped into your head as you were listening, or something that this episode unearthed for you. I would love to hear it. And also comment below as well. It has been so wonderful talking with you, and thank you for spending time with me. And I'll see you in the next one. The No More Drafts podcast is about movement, not perfection. So before you go, what can you move out of draft mode this week and into imperfectly done? Even if it's a mess, and even if you don't feel ready yet. And if you want more support, come and join me on YouTube, where you'll find me as Louise Corinwe, and also follow the No More Drafts podcast, which is on YouTube as well. And if you want live community support and accountability with group coaching from me, join the Done Mode Collective by signing up to my newsletter. And most importantly, if this episode helped you in any way, don't overthink it. Just share it with someone whose potential is way too big to stay stuck in their head.